I go.
How about them Cowboys?
Here we go.
I'm gonna lose.
I choked again.
Here we go. That's
I'm
all
out
I
of a
know.
job.
Not like winning.
Green Bay now has more wins in that stadium than Dallas does in the playoffs.
Yep. No, I think it's in their stadium too. But yeah, because it's in that stadium. Because the Dallas has 2 wins in that stadium.
Well, no, what I'm saying is Green Bay at AT&T Stadium
Yeah, 3 wins.
has more. No, it's more than three. I mean,
At
overall
AT&T.
wins.
Oh, overall win. Oh, I thought you meant playoff wins.
Still, it's close enough. But imagine a team winning more times at your stadium than you have won in the playoffs. Could not
Yeah.
be me.
Uh-uh. Yep.
But crazy weekend.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to us. We picked the only game that was close.
Yeah. Unless we really wanted to watch Baker Mayfield just scorch the Eagles.
I did watch the second half of that game, or like actually, I watched 3 quarters of it. That was awesome.
But I guess let's get into it. Quick recap of the weekend games. There's only really one good game.
Yep. Buffalo and Pittsburgh was good for a half.
For a quarter.
Yeah. Well, no, because you have to take in the Pittsburghs. I mean, like the second and third quarter.
Oh, yeah, no.
So because then you had Josh Allen's amazing touchdown run, then you had Pittsburgh's kind of comeback before Buffalo scored another touchdown. So
But that game was never really that close.
no, but I mean to make it 24-17, that's a one-score game in Buffalo in the third. Kudos to the Steelers. I mean, they're on their backup quarterback. They don't really match up well against Buffalo.
Oh, I
But
thought
anyway,
this picture took off the receiving yards. My bad. Well, oh well.
who cares?
But
Um,
yeah, Cowboys, you kind of suck.
lot
I
of
think we
questions
can
there.
officially say their window has closed.
Pretty much, yeah.
Unless Belichick comes in, that's it.
I just think it's kind of funny that Cleveland and Philadelphia are our teams. Like if our teams had made the playoffs, that's probably exactly what would have happened. The Vikings would have ended like Cleveland, and you would have ended like Philadelphia.
I feel like we get more than 9 points on Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and we'd probably have a little bit more of a lopsided score against Houston. But
Also, my center wouldn't retire after the game.
True.
I guess to speak about that real quick, Kelsey, all luck to you and Cannon, brother. You've had an amazing career. Super
Oh
Bowl
yeah,
champion.
absolutely.
Um,
And he was a late round pick too.
yeah. Cincinnati Bearcats, I believe.
Yep.
Um,
Same as Ivan Pace, man.
but yeah, just great career. Sad to see it had to end that way. Um, Especially just like it was great to see Baker Mayfield get another playoff win after two teams had basically said, "Yeah, screw you, bud."
Mhm.
But to see that being how Kelsey went, just sucks to see, man.
I mean, he'll get to watch his brother win another Super Bowl. So
Well, yeah, well, we'll get to our playoff. Um, I'm jumping up and around because there's like 30 different things to say. Tomlin saying he's ready to come back next year if they let him, which I don't see why you wouldn't, even though a bunch of people
I
want
mean,
Tomlin gone.
yeah, I mean it's pretty clearly that it's personnel.
Yeah. Well, when you
And
have Mason Rudolph as your quarterback in the playoffs,
Hmm.
Also, TJ Watt getting hurt in like the final game of the season or second to final game of the season
Hmm. Very
was,
unfortunate.
yeah. They've
I
dealt
mean,
with some injuries.
they might win that game if he played.
Hmm.
Not gonna lie. I
Um,
mean,
but
they
yeah,
get a turnover go their way. They actually get some more stops. I don't know.
and it's also who else are you going to get other than Tomlin? Vrabel, I guess. Um, that is
I don't know. I don't know if that coaching spot opened up. Would Belichick take it?
Pittsburgh is a lot more like hard nosed. Um, Also, I don't know if Belichick wants to go somewhere without a good quarterback. Their quarterback situation is in the tank right now. Um,
Yeah, I guess.
Unless you get Russell Wilson to the Steelers, which some people have suggested.
I mean,
Um,
Belichick's thing is defense, though. So I mean that Pittsburgh would be a good place to go, having the who should be the defensive player of the year.
but I guess we can go top bottom now. Dang, CJ Stroud's having a hell of a rookie season, man.
Oh yeah, dude, that is love seeing that. Hate seeing the end of Joe Flacco, but man,
But
that
somebody had to win this game, and I'm glad it
mhm.
was Stroud just to move the mantle. Um, it is great for the city of Houston. Like for how many years that they've been in the dump to finally get their quarterback, and they've got a lot of young pieces in that. There's still room to grow on that roster. Still got a lot of young guys. Don't really have that many star veteran players where you're going to have cap start to close up in a year or two. So you've still got a couple years to bring pieces on this roster and just make it better and better. Where honestly, I know we've said the AFC South is going to be exciting. Some of those teams are going to start having cap issues where Houston is still fine. Um, and it's also Houston has the younger quarterback with Stroud compared to, say, Trevor Lawrence, where Trevor is going to need his contract sooner than Stroud. Um, and then who knows with the Titans with Vrabel gone now, and who knows where Derrick Henry will end up. Um, and then Colts is just does can Anthony Richardson stay healthy, and we just haven't seen that yet. I hope he does because he's great to watch. But
Mhm.
Cleveland disappointing end, but to a season that had sunk in week two, was it that Chubb went out
Yep.
to get to the playoffs and almost had a chance to get to win the division still after everything, where you lose your quarterback. You went through three or four quarterbacks and get to Joe Flacco.
Yeah,
You
for
lose your
first team
starting running
NFL
back,
history to make the playoff on your fourth string quarterback.
but it was great to see Cleveland still be able to go with their defense to show that defense can still win you games. Just Joe Flacco, the clock struck 12, and with the two picks, wasn't it pick sixes or was it just, it was two pick sixes?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Where it was a 24-14 game where they were driving to make it a 3 point game or at least a 7 point game. And now the next thing you know, 24-14, 38 point game, 38 to 14 point game. It's just sinks the season. And then I don't know if we have really much to talk about with the Kansas City Miami game other than Tua just did not play well and Kansas City was way more prepared compared to what Miami said they would be.
Oh yeah, they smacked them. Like, and really they shouldn't have even scored the touch. That was it was just a lucky throw to Hill. Like,
It was just basically let me
other
just
than that
lob
throw,
this up the hill
they
and
did
he's down there
nothing.
somewhere.
They did nothing other than that play. So I mean, it was skill versus luck, and skill won.
It was just basically, screw it. Hill's down there somewhere. Uh,
Hmm.
and after
The
that,
running
it's
game
basically
couldn't get going whatsoever. Um, the longest run of the night was when they were already down, and it was like for 12 yards
yeah.
or something like that. So
And in a cold weather like that game, you can't expect to throw. And knowing that Miami's season kind of ended in 3 weeks with the Dolphins game, or not with the Dolphins, the Ravens game, the Bills game, and then this game. You lose the 1 seed, you lose the division, then you lose in the playoffs. Uh,
Yeah.
so just kind of sucks to see for them because they're an exciting offense. It's just in the AFC, you have to go to cold places. Unless you get the 1 seed, you are forced to go to somewhere cold. And for Miami, it just didn't work out for them. And though I do know they've come out and said that their goal is to get Tua into a extended contract. So luckily Tua's not done, but got a lot of work to do, and especially if a lot of their like linebacker injuries did not help them. So see him back next year. Hopefully the injury bug doesn't hit them in like the last 3 weeks of the season. So
Exactly. All
going on
right.
to okay.
Yeah, I mean we're moving on to two of my most hated teams. Um Dallas
Honestly,
sucked.
I don't have anything to say about Green Bay just yet. I want to see how they play next week.
Yeah, I mean they own Dallas. That's normal. So
Well, it's not about like the owning Dallas, whatever history. That doesn't matter to me because a lot of the time people say, oh, well, this team owns this team. It's different players every single time. It's not like just because you own a team, whatever. I don't
you
really
beat the
buy
Eagles
into
with
that.
Drew Lock.
That's fair. But that's also Pete Carroll. Um,
Still owning a team.
fair. But what I'm trying to get to is my main focus is on Dallas and how shit they were. Excuse
Mm-hmm.
my French, but that was do not let the 48-32 score
It
don't
was
that does not
48 to
exist.
16.
48 to 16 in the fourth quarter with 6 minutes left. If Green Bay did not like keep their foot on the gas and basically just say, well, if you just want to score, I guess that's fine. I'm not going to try. Dallas had no point, had no like, what's the word? No reason to get to 32 points. Dak
Right. Green Bay
sucks.
sat their starters for a little bit. Then Dallas scored, and then they put them back in.
Yeah, just because the seconds were getting bombed by the first, which that's not surprising. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
do not let the Dak Prescott 403 yards confuse you. He sucked. He looked like he did not know what to do out there. I don't know what Mike McCarthy was doing this past week. I don't know if Dan Quinn saw
Eating a sandwich.
Seattle, basically. Um, but I don't know if Dan Quinn saw the Seattle job open and that kind of got his attention, which now I do not want Dan Quinn to even touch the damn building. Because here's the
Aren't you
thing.
guys interviewing Avero or somebody from the
We've
Broncos?
there's like 8 interviews that we've already signed up for.
Oh wow.
Jim Harbaugh not being one of them, which pisses me off, but one of
He's
Schneider's.
waiting for the Vikings next year.
Oh no, Harbaugh has already interviewed with the Chargers, and
Oh.
Belichick's interviewing with the Falcons.
Yep. That's all I told you that was one of the teams on my list.
My only thing is for the Falcons to actually go get a decent quarterback and not Ritter, because Ritter is not the guy. Um, but we'll get to that once we get to the offseason. Um, Mike McCarthy needs to be fired. Dak
Agreed.
needs to go. And I hate the Cowboys, but just as somebody who likes to watch football, it's the same dang story, Tyler.
Mm-hmm. Except instead of losing at the end and to the 49ers, they lost at the beginning and to the Packers
Yeah, in the first
in
two
hilarious
quarters.
fashion.
Because there was a point where this game was 27-0, and Dallas did not deserve to get a touchdown before half to make it 27-7 because they had a false start on the final play, which should have cost them the touchdown. Um, it's just they did not. And here's the thing: Dallas could not stop the run all year. What happened? Aaron Jones ran for 118 yards and 3 TDs. Aaron
Which
Jones
that
had
is confusing. That should be more based on what I saw.
Aaron
That
Jones had
seems
two
low.
touchdowns the whole year. He had three on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
That's embarrassing. And I don't want to hear Micah Parsons come out, oh, the haters. Oh, well, if you're going to say about this about us, then do it to no, because the 49ers and some of these other teams have continued success and have won in the big games.
Mm-hmm.
Micah Parsons,
And they
you
didn't only
probably
get
weren't
one
born
solo
since they went
tackle
to
in
the
the playoff game.
playoffs. And it's
They
just like,
didn't also get one solo tackle in the playoff game too.
and
Like that
I'm,
was his worst game ever.
yeah. And it's like Dak Prescott, I'm tired of, well, we didn't live to the standard. What standard? Losing? Because you fit that standard quite well, and because that's all you've done since you've been at Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Other than two playoff wins at home, you've done nothing.
Oh, they beat Tampa on the road.
Okay, I think it's three then. I don't know. But
Just kidding.
still,
I don't care. I'm just messing around.
I don't know. But it's just, and a part of it, because I started hearing this name pop up after Sunday night. And here's the reason why I do not like it. And I do not believe it will happen unless Jerry Jones sells the team or puts a strap of duct tape over his face and gets locked into a prison for the next season.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Belichick as head coach.
Interesting.
One, I do not see Belichick coming to a team that has this many voices. I don't see him coming to his team where his owner won't shut up all season. Um, and it's just I understand why you would want Bill Belichick just because he could fix the defensive side of the football.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also so everyone said Zeke was the problem, just put in Tony Pollard. And before the season, when Kellen Moore got fired and went to the Chargers, what did Mike McCarthy say he was going to do? He was going to run the damn football, Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
How many times did they run in this game in the whole
And
season?
that's why I picked him in fantasy. I think I picked him in like the third or fourth round. Something
Because
like
if I'm going
that.
to be honest, they probably ran less than last year. I don't know the stats,
No, they
but
did. They did.
like I don't know how Mike McCarthy's getting away with all these lies. I'd love to just lie to my employer and be able to get away with it 100 times out of 100 and then get paid millions and millions of dollars for lying to their face.
Forget lying. Just get paid for doing nothing.
Well, the statements he says are a lie, though. That's where I'm going with that.
Right.
But Green Bay, I'll talk about you next week. One, I to go into my predictions real quick, I do have the 49ers winning that game, but it's also I just want to see how they come out. Now, if it's a tight game, then I we'll get to that. But going on to the next game to try to keep this a bit short tonight, Detroit finally gets their win, Tyler.
Yes, they did. And we watched it.
And a part of this game was Detroit scored two touchdowns to begin with. The Rams only
Versus the
scored a
Rams
touchdown and a
touchdown and
field
field
goal,
goal. Yep.
which was a field goal, then a touchdown. And
Mhm.
honestly, that because it's a 1 point game, 4 points made the whole difference. When Detroit was able to move the ball, which was mostly just in the first half, they had once or twice in the second half where they moved the ball, but didn't really get anywhere with it. Um, Detroit scored touchdowns. They scored one field goal, but the Rams scored three field goals. That's the difference in a ball game.
Yep.
You have to convert down the red zone. Now, I have to give it to the Lions defense. Yeah, Nakua was going around like crazy. It's either you're letting Cup beat you or you're letting Puka or Puka Nakua beat you, and at least being able to stop Cup because Cup's only caught a ball like one or two times.
Yeah, and Kyron Williams didn't do much either, so he stopped two out of the three.
So Yeah, even though Matthew Stafford had 367 yards, you got the stops when needed. And for all the people out there saying there should have been pass interference and Detroit got saved by the ref, okay, for the one time in 30 years,
Yep.
please.
I
Rams,
mean, hey, I've been talking crap about the refs all season. I think they did a great job this week. I'm not even lying. I mean, I'm the type of person who's gonna call a spade a spade. If the refs do poorly, I'm gonna call them out on it. If the refs do well, I'm gonna praise them. They did a good job this week. I didn't see anything during our game that looked to me that I was like, oh, that's terrible, or "Oh, that should have been called, or whatever, right? Didn't have any of those reactions. You were sitting right next to me. Um,
also, Dallas finally got two holding calls for Micah Parsons, and they did nothing with it.
yeah,
That's funny.
that is. Yeah, I mean, I just hated how the crowd booed Stafford for coming in, which like that's the quarterback that made your franchise relevant. So,
It's also one of those he left and then instantly won a Super Bowl when like you had wide receivers like Calvin Johnson and he couldn't
mhm.
get a single playoff win.
But it's not all on him. The team sucked.
Well, Tyler, I know this, but
Yeah.
you got emotional fans out there, first home playoff game in decades.
Hmm.
This is right next to the state that in a Ring of Honor ceremony booed the widow of their former GM that was on the floor to accept his honor in Chicago.
Yeah.
Sports fans aren't always up or not always fully right in the head sometimes, especially at a sporting event. So, like, there's some people that were great to see Stafford go win something somewhere, but then there's some that are like, you played great there, but you couldn't do that for us because there were a lot of games that Stafford didn't play well either. Now,
Well,
you
yeah.
didn't have that Rams defense or Rams offensive line in those Lions games,
And you didn't have the Lions offensive line that they have now.
but
Most underrated in the league.
well, it just took them so many years and so many busts that nobody really talks about, and who really talks about offensive lines, anyways.
Hmm.
But do you have it really anything to say for the Buffalo Pittsburgh game?
No, I actually thought like I said, the middle chunk of it was pretty entertaining. So go watch the second and third quarter if you want to see any highlights from that game. Uh, and then do the same thing with Philadelphia and Tampa, honestly. You'll get to see a
They
lot of
absolutely
if you
destroyed
want to
them.
see a lot of missed tackles, watch the Tampa Bay Eagles game.
If you want to see Jalen Hurts making the stupidest play I've ever seen a quarterback do, go to
You
the
mean
safety
purposely
play.
run back for a safety like Dan Orlovsky? Except this time he threw it out of bounds after running back.
What are you talking? That was not the safety. Did you watch that play?
Yeah, he got pushed back by pressure, so he decides to tuck it and run back towards the end zone, and then at the very last second throws the ball away in the end zone.
Well, okay, yeah. Well, he just like
So
threw it 5 yards in front of him and then got intentional grounding.
yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but as we were saying earlier, that was a ugly game. It was kind of like it was reminiscent of the Tom Brady retirement game against Dallas, where it was just an ugly way to go. And honestly, that sometimes happens.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Philly, I think it was what, six of their last seven they lost.
Yeah.
And I know there were some people saying Sirianni needs to be fired after everything. My thought was going into last night, if this game was close, but they just can't get it done because one, they were missing AJ Brown, they had injuries, team just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't there. That's one thing. To get blown out in that fashion,
Yep.
where Baker Mayfield looks like an all pro quarter. Do I feel Baker Mayfield could be a good quarterback? Yes. But when you are making Baker Mayfield look elite, that's an issue, especially for a defense that the start of the season was supposed to be this vaunted Georgia drafted defense, and they got gashed.
Yep.
Jalen Hurts did not look good. It's just one of those things where, honestly, I think Sirianni's job is in danger, and I think those coordinators that they lost. I know you've been saying this all season, but I think they were covering up some of this roster's weaknesses. And here's the thing: you can't do tush push every single play of the game.
Yep.
It's the one play they had, and it's all that worked. And I know the whole team said, "Well, it's 1st and 9 for us, and we have 4 downs." Blah blah blah. Well, you got to get the 9 yards, and you don't, and you're screwed. Because if you are in third or fourth and longs, you're just done. Um,
I mean, we proved the flaw week 2 against Philly.
but it's
The Patriots proved it as well.
I think a part of it was in the early weeks when they were beating, which we know now were pretty sucky teams. Sorry, but like
Vikings weren't
Patriots
sucky.
sucked.
So
Patriots were sucky.
yes.
Giants were well, I guess the Giants were later. The Commanders were sucky. Some of these other teams were sucky.
Mhm.
And we kind of gave them the bye, or we let them bye because one, they were just in the Super Bowl, and two, you thought they would put it together as the season got along. And then they hit that rough stretch of like the Cowboys twice, the 49ers, you had the Seahawks in there, and it all just came tumbling down when they faced actual competition and they didn't have it together. A win hides a lot of things, but if you do not correct those things, it's going to get ugly like it did, and you'll lose 6 or 7.
Yep.
And they're going into the offseason with a lot of questions. Do I think Jalen Hurts is still their guy? Yes. I think it's a talented roster, but I feel like they need to start retooling different places. One is going to have to be finding a center now because of Kelsey leaving.
Mhm.
There's just a lot of questions, and
They need play
probably
calling on both sides of the ball.
yeah.
So
And I
that's
think
really annoying.
Sirianni also needs to go. You do not lose 6 of your last 7 and get away with it, even if
Yep.
you were just in the Super Bowl last year.
And also, I don't think Bowles' job was ever in danger, but he's for sure safe now. That was one of the best game plans ever.
Oh,
No wild card
yeah,
round.
Tampa Bay.
Yep. So
Honestly, I guess we can go ahead and, if you're willing, go into picks now or
yeah,
talk about the games this week.
let's go. Let's
Um,
go.
there's some interesting matchups. Like, I guess, well, I'll do the same thing as I did last week, where we're going to go from least to most interesting.
Okay.
Um, first one,
Tampa Bay at Lions.
that's what I was going to say. I don't want to say it's the least interesting game, but I feel like this is where Tampa Bay's run ends.
I agree.
Lions in the divisional game where they're one a game away from the playoffs, and there's still the chance. If Green Bay somehow pulls out a miracle, I don't have them doing that. I think you do because you have Green Bay going to the Super Bowl. That the
Hmm.
Lions may host a championship game. That place is going to be rocking. That team is going to be fired up. I think they're going to be fired up more because of the Detroit or the Rams win than them
Hmm.
being a bit more beat down because of it.
And
Didn't
it's
really
Dan
have any,
Campbell.
yeah, but
Hmm.
didn't really have any injuries during the game, so that was a good thing. So I really think this is just gonna. It was nice to see Tampa Bay get a win. Nice to see that the NFC South wasn't a complete waste of time, which it usually is.
Hmm.
Um, but I think the clock strikes 12 for Baker Mayfield this season.
Yep.
Uh,
I think the Lions continue their dominance and advance, staying on the NFC side.
yeah, I
Um,
agree.
the Packers, honestly, like again, that their fans can never be sad. The NFL won't allow it. They get to do whatever they want. So, they're my Super Bowl pick simply because they've lost so many times that the NFL owes them. I mean, they
Tyler.
deserve a Super Bowl ring because they've lost so many championships. The NFL is just going to hand it out like it's candy. Um,
Or
you know,
Green
they
Bay
had
just
they had to
drafts
go,
well.
Matt, they had to go like 8 games this season without a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. That
It was
is
around
way
two
too dang.
months.
That is way too long for the Packers. Way too long. That's unacceptable. The Roger Goodell should have been fired
Tyler.
after week 2 of the Packers not
Tyler.
having a Hall of Fame quarterback. No. I don't have a word for it yet, but what urinating tree goes into Yinzer mania. I'm going into Vikings mania. I don't know what it is, but
Your team's not in the playoffs, bud. Just move along. What's your
yeah,
pick?
I don't care. Yeah, the Packers playing with house money, and they're just gonna go win the Super Bowl with being able to get even better next year. So I mean, that's exactly what should happen. Because their fans are spoiled little brats, and they can't have anything bad happen to them, or they'll complain, and then the refs will be on their side and get them to the playoffs, which is how they're here in the first place. And then they go in and win because everybody writes them off, and the media wants them to win because they're a big fan base team. Blah blah blah. So yeah, until they lose, I'm picking them because honestly, you could tell me that Jordan Love and like Aaron Jones and Jared Alexander and Preston Smith, all of them, Kenny Clark, all of them are not playing. I'd still pick them because you can never count out the Packers. Ever. So give me Packers.
Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
This is just my memory not being that great, and also the drafts running together. Were Trey Lance and Love in the same draft, or was Lance afterwards?
I am not sure actually. I think that's afterwards.
Hold on.
Because Jordan Love, I think, was the same draft that JJ was in, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because I think you got him the first round. Uh,
Yeah, because Trey Lance was like the third or fourth pick that year, and Jordan Love was a court. I don't think that. Yeah, I think Lance was 2021. Jordan Love was 2020, if I'm not mistaken.
okay, whatever. I was going to try to make the Alex Smith, Aaron Rodgers comparison, but that fell apart. Um,
Here, I'll fact check you while you do yours.
nah, don't worry about it. Because here's where I'm going to make my point. So I've always had issues for teams resting their players for 2 weeks in a row,
Mm-hmm.
except the Ravens, but we'll get to them in a second. Actually, after the Chiefs game.
To cut you off, I was indeed correct. Jordan Love was drafted
Okay.
2020. Trey Lance was drafted 2021.
I figured that was, but I just want to make sure. The 49ers rested their players week 18 and then had the bye week off. I think what's going to happen in this game, 49ers going to be a little bit rusty going in, going to be a little bit timid to tackle to get back into the flow of things. And I think Green Bay comes out, gets one or two scores while the 49ers are still getting back into things. And then Brock Purdy is just not going to be able to get this team back into it because this team is not built to, one, go into an offensive shootout, and two, come back from a deficit. This is a team built on we get the lead early and we keep kicking you down while we have the lead. And I could see this game going in the opposite direction where 49ers are going to come out a little bit rusty and Green Bay comes out of this game.
So you're actually picking the Packers too?
Yeah, just because I want the 49ers to get the effing going.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So we're 2 for 2. Alrighty. Moving
Kansas City.
on. I think we gotta do Kansas City. Yeah, I
Because
mean these are actually good matchups.
we've seen this like what 30 times now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this
But I
is
mean,
the
it
defensive.
still never fails to be a good game though.
This is the offensive offsides game. Almost forgot about that.
pretty much.
Also, here's the
Let's
funny
see.
thing. I think what's his name wasn't even active on Sunday or Saturday.
Kadarius Toney?
Yeah, I don't think he was even active on Saturday.
Probably not.
They were like, "You're not screwing this for us."
It's interesting because it's Mahomes' first playoff game on the road. And I don't even know if that's, you know, too important. Because I mean, like, they won Super Bowls already, and you could say those were on the road because they're not in your
Neutral
home state.
ground.
So, I mean, I don't know. I'm very torn on this one, but honestly, because like it's tough because the Chiefs have a good defense, so Josh Allen might cough it up, and that might be the game. That might be the change in this game. It might not even be how Josh Allen and Mahomes play. It might just be the fact if Josh Allen turns it over. That's it. That's it. It's the end of the game. Um, does that? This is a tough one to pick because I we don't have to actually make the picks on the app anymore because we our bracket stays the same. Because it just compiles our whole picks for the whole shebang from what I've seen. Um. Anyway, who do I want in this game? You know what? I rode with the Packers because I said I don't count them out. I rode with the Chiefs because I said I never count out Patrick Mahomes in playoffs. Give me the Chiefs. Maybe it'll be a new thing and he'll lose on the road, and then that can be something I go off of in the future. But like I said before in last week's podcast, I used to never bet against Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, and I hold that true for Mahomes. So even though he's on the road for the first time in his career, give me Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Josh Allen finally conquers his demons. The writing will be amazing. Um, First game for Mahomes on the road. I think it's different when you're playing at home versus away, and you're at the trusted wide receivers on the road in Oasis Stadium where you have snowballs getting thrown at you in the stands.
Mm.
Um, I just think it's one of those things where this team's going on the road for the first time in the playoffs ever. I know you said Super Bowls, but that's neutral
It's neutral site,
sites.
yeah.
And it's also usually in a dome where the weather isn't a part of it, or they just put it in California and there's no weather.
The Chiefs also just won one of the coldest games ever, so don't count that out.
But
I
this
believe
is
it's the
also
third or fourth
in
coldest game in NFL history.
was also cold in Buffalo as well.
Yeah, but the Chiefs won, so it
Buffalo won,
correct.
so
I'm just
technically,
saying the cold is not a weakness, I would say.
well, whatever. But being on the road might be something bit of a difference for the team. They might not be prepared for it, which don't really take that in apart. But I feel like at some point in this postseason, those wide receivers will come back to bite the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it's going to be here because usually you would have prime Tyreek Hill, prime Kelsey to come out and basically destroy the cheat or the Bills' dreams. That's not the same this year. And I feel like that loss of home field advantage will also hurt them at some point. That might just be the Ravens game
Yeah.
if they face them there, but I
Like
see the Chiefs bowing out this round.
like I said, I'm so torn on this game. It's a coin flip, which usually Buffalo loses. So I mean, I hate to. I mean, I don't want to bring that up, but I mean, it kind of
Well,
just
here's the
fit.
thing: both sides get the
So
chance, even if one scores a touchdown.
yeah, I know.
We're
I
in new
just
rules
had
this
I
time,
had a
Tyler.
funny meme, and I'm good. So, um,
Going on
yeah,
to the most interesting game.
in our opinion,
Yeah.
is Houston taking on the rested Baltimore Ravens? Now, honestly, I'd be happy with either of these teams winning. I don't
Yeah.
really have a stake in this. Um, honestly, like regardless what happens, I think this is two very successful seasons for either of these franchises. I mean, I think actually no, but Baltimore would need to win this game in order to have a successful season. But um, compared to what expectations were, Houston's already blown away expectations.
Yeah.
Um, so, but to be honest though, that Ravens defense at home, again, this is where I think the home field advantage plays the most impact out of all four of these games. Baltimore at home has just been a completely different beast. Houston had their first playoff game in a while. Um, and they were at home against Cleveland. I think that's another thing to take away from that. Houston Stroud got his crowd behind him and everything. How's he going to be on the road in the playoffs against a great caliber defense that took apart the Niners earlier in the season on the road in the Niners house with all those weapons? So to me, I see Baltimore taking this one simply because their players have more playoff experience, and I think that uh, that's going to come to serve them well. That defense is stacked on all parts of it, and the offense is clicking. They have Mark Andrews back now, so I think that's just going to stretch the defense even further. Um, as far as trying to get the ball downfield, they got multiple ways to do it. Their wide receivers got better when he left, so meshed it all together. I think it spells out victory for Baltimore, and usually that's when they lose. So I probably should be picking Houston, but I'm gonna pick Baltimore because I have them winning the Super Bowl in my bracket. So I'm gonna actually hope that one of my picks stays correct.
All right, let me just ask this real quick just to make sure before I state this opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say Stroud is better than Brock Purdy?
Absolutely.
So here's my thing, especially in the playoffs where it's teams facing each other that are not divisional. This Baltimore team faced the Texans in what, the first game of the season?
I didn't know they played before. I don't really pay attention to the AFC too much.
If you want to check it while I'm staying my stuff, I do believe they faced week one where Baltimore barely came out with a win where Lamar Jackson was fumbling the football all over the place. And this was still a young Texans team who were still trying to find their groove, especially with a good amount of young players on this roster that just came in this offseason with a new coach, with
They
new
won
coordinators.
25-9. What are you talking about? Close game.
Okay, it was close to like the third or fourth quarter, I think. Because I think there was a point where Baltimore then just scooted ahead.
Baltimore scored 7 points in the first, 15 in the third, and three in the fourth.
Okay,
So
so what was it?
third,
Seven.
it was over in the third quarter.
Okay, first half it was a close game.
Yeah, it was 7-6 at half in
Young
Baltimore's favor.
Texans team, young staff, still having to try to find their groove with this roster. It's hard to beat a team twice unless it's divisional, where that's a whole different thing where you might face three times, especially in playoffs.
You might argue though that two week one teams are different now, but like both of these teams are a lot different.
So, how much of a difference has there been from the Ravens since week one?
I would say a lot. I don't see Lamar fumbling the ball all over the place anymore. I don't see them stumbling out of the gate in games. I see them getting ahead early in games.
Well, still, you and me both thought that the Ravens would be one of the better teams in the AFC,
Yep.
and that's still
We
true.
were right. Mm-hmm.
We thought the Texans were going to be a bottom five team, and the Arizona Cardinals would have two top five picks,
Hey,
or at least two
pick
top 10 picks.
pick the happy story, man.
we've seen this roster grow. There's a
Mhm.
lot of young players out for blood, playing with cash money. This Baltimore team might be a little. They haven't really had good luck in the playoffs the past few years. Lamar Jackson has not had a good playoff resume yet. Stroud got his first win. Why not two?
Yeah. I mean, you gotta think that, I mean, out of all the teams they could have faced, this is the third worst. Because they didn't want to face anybody from the north. So
And I'm going back to change my pick real quick because I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs, where it's
yep.
Patrick Mahomes versus CJ Stroud for the championship.
Okay. Wasn't expecting that.
We're going for the
I
storylines.
was literally about to close with we picked the same on the NFC and different on the AFC, but all right, we picked the same for 3 games. So
And now watch Buffalo win, and I'm going to be hating myself.
I, I can't. You have the final say on your picks, good sir, as do I. To
Until
recap,
I completely just gaslight you into something else.
what's said on here is final, and my final picks are as follows: Lions, Packers, Chiefs, Ravens.
Green Bay, Detroit, Strouds, KC.
Yep, there you go. One game different. Will it matter? Or will one of our other picks be wrong? Or will we all, well, we can't all be right, but
We lose the
what?
first 3 games, and it's whoever gets one of three or 1-3 or 0 for 4,
Yep,
which that would happen, wouldn't it?
probably. Just more to add to the suffering. It'll probably be me going 0-4. Although to add to my suffering, the Packers would be making the playoffs. So I can't go 0-4. So my suffering will be okay. Like it won't be total suffering. Because if I go 0-4, that means the Packers miss the playoffs, and I'll be happy.
Eh.
Or I mean, got eliminated rather. But yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, that's our picks. Here we go. It's the divisional, and we're not gonna be there because we suck.
We're back on the couch.
All righty. Until
NFC
next time.
East is in a total despair right now.
Are we gonna try and stream the Baltimore Houston game if
What
that's
day
on a
is that
Sunday?
one?
I
Hold
don't
on.
know.
I'll look at the games.
If they're Are they doing Saturday still too?
Yeah, that's one 4:30 on Saturday.
Is
I,
Baltimore Texans?
yeah,
I could probably do that. Well, actually, no, I can't. Nope, I have a housewarming to go to.
I don't know if we really want to watch the Chiefs Bills either.
Dude, that has never failed to be a bad game. So
And we'll see. What we might do is just do one of the championship games next week. Actually, no, I can't do next week either. Eh,
such busy time.
yeah, we could just do Super Bowl.
We'll see what happens if we happen to have a day free this week, next week, whatever. We'll try and figure it out. So,
All right. Well, that will be all.
all right. Thank you all for tuning in. And just to leave it with this: never underestimate a team to beat itself.
Here we go.